most people don't think of it as a mistake, but it is a mentality that is costing you money. And that is that it is always a mistake to want to sell what you want to sell instead of wanting to sell what the marketplace wants to buy.
There's a giant, yeah. Here we go. You see, I got where I am because someone reached out a hand. Help me to stand, be an independent man. Because I'm standing on the shoulders of a giant. The shoulders of a giant, y'all. I'm thankful.
I figured out a long time ago that I don't have to talk people into stuff if they already have a desire for the thing that I'm selling. And I think a lot of people haven't figured that out. And I don't like talking people into stuff. I don't have a half an ounce of convince in me at all. And I've done millions of dollars in sales one-on-one. I've done millions of dollars in sales on the internet. I've done millions of dollars in sales from the stage. And I have no desire whatsoever to convince anybody to buy anything for any price ever. So what's really cool is people are never wrong about what they want. Now they may be wrong for wanting it, but they're not wrong about wanting it, right? And so people are never wrong about what they want. I remember I was sitting at a restaurant in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, of all places. And I was doing some paperwork. This is back when I used to be a part of a multi-level marketing company. And somebody said, "Excuse me, sir, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure, what's the question?" He said, "Are you in sales?" I said, "I am indeed." And he said, "What do you sell?" I said, "That depends. What do you want to buy?" Because I don't want to sell what I want to sell. I only want to sell what the marketplace wants to buy. And if you'll make that part of your mantra and stop starting your businesses in here, I'm gonna write this book because I've always wanted to write this book. I want to write a book because I want to tell my story. Nobody cares about your story but you and your mother. And she's not really that interested because she saw it and it wasn't that interesting to her what was happening, right? So, and nobody wants to hear my story either. People only want to hear our story as our story relates to how to make their lives better, right? So most business people start their business in here with some passion project instead of starting their business out there. I love what I heard somebody said, that Warren Buffett said, the thing you love should be your hobby. The thing the marketplace loves should be your business. And that is so true. So don't just start a business because you've always wanted to sell something. Don't just start a business because you have this widget, this thing that you invented and you think, well, this saved me X amount of time or this saved me X amount of money, so everybody's gonna want one. Only sell what people desire to buy. It'll change your life for the rest of your life. It does, and what's really cool is you can help people desire to buy what you sell if you're willing to figure out what their values are, right? If you thought about the definition of selling, what would you think the definition for selling is? And I think a lot of people think the definition for sales is talking people into buying something they don't want, don't need, and can't afford. I don't think that's the definition for selling. I believe selling is uncovering the value of what we have to offer so well that people are happy to exchange the money they have in their pockets for the value we've revealed. Now, when you get to the place where you uncover value enough, like the value of what you have to offer, so well that people are happy to exchange the money they have in their pocket for the value you've revealed, then and only then are you really selling. Interestingly enough, you can't uncover value to someone until you uncover what's valuable to that someone. So I have to ask you questions about what's valuable to you before I can ever sell you anything. I have to find, and I don't really, sometimes you can figure it out without asking questions. If you're a part of a big group of people that has like an appetite for something that's not being like satisfied, if you have a thirst for something that's not being quenched, if you have a desire for something and nobody's meeting that desire, and you're a part of that group of people and you're a part of the conversations that go on, why don't they make it like this? Why don't they have one of these that does that? And if you're a part of that conversation, a part of that thought process, then you can tap into selling to people based on what they want to buy instead of what you want to sell. It's so interesting. I not only did Steve Jobs have the ability to see the connections between seemingly unrelated things, but he had the ability to say it. You know, just because you can see something doesn't mean you can say it, right? But fortunately for Steve Jobs, fortunately for Apple, fortunately for everybody who's ever bought an Apple product, Steve Jobs had the ability to do both. And while other people were making, quote, MP3 players, and they were calling them MP3 players because they played MP3s, Steve Jobs didn't call it an MP3 player. What did he call it? He called it an iPod. And he didn't describe it as, well, it's a hard drive It's a hard drive that stores music, and it accesses that music through file access tables and all this techno babble. What did he say? He said it's 1,000 songs in your pocket. Like, anybody who loves music or has ever loved music loves the idea of 1,000 songs in your pocket. What could be better than 1,000 songs in your pocket? Only 1,001 songs in your pocket, or maybe 2,000 songs in your pocket. And so Steve Jobs had this really unique ability to tap into the desires of other people and then to deliver that thing to other people. When Steve Jobs invented a phone, I remember the very first iPhone commercials from 2007. And when he said what they did when they created the iPhone, because back then smartphones had this little bitty screen up top and a whole bunch of buttons at the bottom. He said, we just basically eliminated this lower third. And so what they did was they made the whole screen available and then had pictures of buttons. Who would have thought of that? Well, I guess Steve Jobs. What did he do? He was really good at only selling people what people want to buy. And see, most of us think people want to buy a product. Most salespeople think people, like consumers want to buy a product. People don't want to buy a product. They want to buy an experience. They want to buy happiness. They want to buy joy. They want to buy a pair of shoes because of how those shoes make them feel. They want to drive a specific car because of how that car makes them feel. They want to be able to take pictures on their phone because of how those pictures make them feel every time they look at it. And I am telling you, if you will tap into the emotions of other human beings and figure out what they value and only talk to them about that when you are selling, it will change your life for the rest of your life. It's so interesting. When I got started in sales, I started in the insurance and investment arena, right? So I got started in sales, selling insurance and investments. I only had one problem. I was terrible at sales. Why was I terrible at sales? I thought selling was talking people into buying something they didn't want, didn't need, and couldn't afford. It wasn't until I realized that people want what they want. And if I talk to them about that, they'll buy all day long. And so it's fascinating how sometimes calling the product what it is keeps people from having a desire to buy it from you. For instance, life insurance. Nobody wants to buy life insurance. Why? Because you got to die to collect on it, right? Who's like, yeah, give me some of that. Yeah, I'll take 7 pounds of life insurance, and then I'll go jump off a bridge. No, nobody wants to do that, right? So, but if you think about life insurance for what it really is, it's not life insurance. So if I were selling life insurance, for instance, today, I wouldn't even call it life insurance. And if I did, I would only call it life insurance so people would know what I was talking about. Then I would explain to them that it's kind of like, and I'll tell you what it's kind of like in a minute. So and why do I say life insurance is not really life insurance? Because if you have a car insurance and you wreck your car, you get enough money to buy a new car. If you have house insurance, your house burns down, you get enough money to buy a new house or rebuild your house. If you have life insurance, you die, you don't get a new life. So it's really not life insurance. What is it? Life insurance is really income replacement insurance for your family. And so when you think about it like that, when you think about the fact that it doesn't matter whether you're married and the breadwinner or a stay-at-home husband or a stay-at-home wife, it doesn't matter whether that's, which one of those is the case. If one parent dies, you got to have income replacement insurance for that person. Even if the person didn't work, you have to hire somebody now to do all the things they did. So life insurance isn't life insurance. It's income replacement insurance. So if I were selling it today, I would be talking to the people about, these are all the things that your family can do right now because you are working and you are able. But if you unfortunately die, we don't want that to happen, but if it happens, your children will still be able to be educated. They'll still be able to eat. Your spouse won't have to get in a relationship with some new person just because they need to do that financially. They'll have the space and bandwidth to grieve, to mourn, and to replace that family's income. So your family dreams can stay on track, even if you face an untimely death. So that's how you sell things to people. You sell them things to people based on what they want, not based on what you want them to have. Hopefully that helps, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video.